to introduce the entire initiative of Edu Sports, which we are intending to take it up. Swami Vivekananda once said that you will be closer to heaven if you will play football rather than by the study of Gita. So that was an emphasis he laid on physical, strenuous work. So uh, this evening we are launching a major initiative called Edu Sports, where the idea is to unfurl the larger wisdom nuggets which sports really teach up in the educational spaces. I request Swamiji to please give his invocation on this subject.
It's supposed to be arriving any time. On such occasions, I always remember an incident which occurred in Bangkok some years ago. There was a conference of the vice chancellors of universities. They call them presidents in the United States. The chancellor of Oxford University was present as the chief guest. He is a very witty, wise person. He began by saying the following, which I always remember. He said, I went to an international conference and asked the audience, how long should I speak? They said, sir, you come from far away, you're such a wise man. Please do speak as long as you can and as long as you like. But we are leaving after half an hour. That's a wonderful thing to happen to a speaker. So I always say, I've been teaching physics for nearly about 3 decades. When teachers get the mic, they very rarely have the urge to stop. And teachers turn monks, it is much worse. So the integrating sports in higher education is an area which are the new initiative which is going to be launched, I hear. So I will begin with a small Shanti mantra, the peace chant from the Upanishad. Swami Vivekananda said, Upanishads are our basic scriptures. Go back to the Upanishads only because the Upanishads speak about strengths. Every page of the Upanishad, he said, strength, strength, strength. This is what being emphasized in the Upanishads, every page of it. The famous sentence in the Mundaka Upanishad, Swami Vivekananda is very fond of this. Nayam Atma Balahirena Labhyaha. The statement is, this Atman, the supreme reality, call it by any name, is not realizable by a person who is Balahina, who is weak. Swami Vivekananda interprets this very strangely by saying, even a person who is physically weak will not be able to attain this Atman or the supreme reality. One of his very dear disciples, Sharatchandra Chakravarti, countered him by saying, but this is not the interpretation of Shankara, the famous, the Acharya Shankara, gives for this. He said a person who is mentally weak, a person who is morally weak will not be able to attain the reality. But why do you say that even a person who is physically weak will not be able to attain the supreme reality? Swamiji thundered, Vivekananda thundered. Let Shankara say what he likes, but I say that if a person is physically weak, he will not be capable of realizing the Atman. Swami Vivekananda said, most of the problems in India arise from physical weakness. If he had been physically more strong, he said, we would have conquered the world long ago actually as we did. And he talked about the great avatars, Rama and Krishna being the greatest among them as we know. They were warriors, they were Kshatriyas, they were great fighters. They are not weak people. Somehow the idea that spirituality has to be blended with weakness came much later. A spiritual person, a monk, has to be an emaciated person, he has to be lean and thin, he can't speak well, and then always he is tired all the time, meditative, inward, contemplative, doesn't look at the world outside. Vivekananda himself was challenged once in USA, because as you know, he was very well built. As a young boy, he used to go to the gymnasium. All kinds of sports he knew, including horse riding, which he learned later on. So the Christian idea of monkhood, a Christian priest or a Christian wise man or a holy man, the idea is he has to be extremely emaciated and thin. He can't speak powerfully, and he'll always be inward. He'll always be contemplative. Resist not evil was what Christ taught in the Bible. That is a very, very high idea for people who have attained a very great heights. But Swami Vivekananda said, in the Bible it is said, if somebody slaps you one cheek, show him the other cheek also. That is for very, very highly illumined people who have completely given up all kinds of evil, all kinds of resistance. Vivekananda said, somebody slaps you in one cheek, give him in both the cheeks back. The idea being, not that it has to be taken literally, the idea being, don't be weak. In fact, he said, very dangerously, be wicked if you like, but don't be weak. And he said, as a young boy, I studied the Milton's Paradise Lost. In those days, as you know, they were all taught by the British and particularly from the people from Scotland and England. Swamiji himself had his education from a person, Hasty, who was from Scotland, and therefore Swami Vivekananda's English pronunciation was so impeccable. The American newspaper says he spoke English as if he was a native speaker of English. Only some kind of Scottish touch is there, because he was taught by a person from Scotland. Swamiji said, when I read the Milton's Paradise Lost, the only fellow for whom I had some respect was Satan, who dared disobey God. You know the story in the Bible. God created everybody, God created man in his own image, and told all the angels in the heaven, go and bow down before man. Then Satan got up. He was an angel. His name was Lucifer, a luminous one. Satan got up and said, what? We are angels. We can't bow down before this man, the new creation of God. You know the first sentence Satan spoke there? The Inqilab Jindabad began in the heavens with Satan's speech. You know the first sentence he spoke? One of the English professors pointed out, so I was very amazed. He said, arise awake or be ever fallen. This was Satan's first statement. Somehow Swami Vivekananda was so fascinated by this sentence. Perhaps Uttishtata Jagrata in the Kathopanishad they translated as arise and awake. So he was so particular that Indian men and women should be extremely powerful physically and of course mentally also. His famous statement was, what we need is muscles of iron and nerves of steel, inside which dwells a mind made of the same material of which the thunderbolt is made. So that was his idea, that a person should be completely developed. You need a total development of the human personality, physically, mentally, morally, intellectually, and spiritually. Swami Vivekananda insisted you should have a complete all-round development. In fact, the Taittiriya Upanishad talks about 5-layered human personality, which is Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. That is a technical term. Annamaya is the physical body, Pranamaya is the vital body, and Manomaya is the mental, and the intellectual and the supra-intellectual is the Vijnanamaya, and the Anandamaya is the spiritual. Vivekananda said a person has to be fully developed in all these 5 faculties. Of course, a very tall order, and at least we should approximate to the ideal of a complete development of a human personality, of which the most vital and the most important, according to Swami Vivekananda, was the physical. And in our scriptures it is said, Shariram Adyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Dharma Sadhana, spiritual pursuit, intellectual pursuit if you want to take up. Adyam, to start with, you have to begin with the body. The body is the only instrument that we have. And it is one of the most wonderful machines that nature and God could have ever created. Those of you who are uncomfortable with the word God, you can substitute always with nature. Nature has given this wonderful body, our parents have given us such a wonderful body which we spoil. Overindulgence, not keeping the body properly, not caring for the rules of health. Such an extraordinary machine that God has created and given it to us, and how carelessly we deal with this. I always tell my students, I've been teaching physics all my life, but life science always fascinates me. Anything which grows, anything which is full of life, anything which is full of vitality, is a great wonder. How the human body grows from the mother's womb, how it is growing and how it is becoming so powerful later on. And what an extraordinary coordination of all the limbs of the body. Just think of it. We talk about coordination, we talk about cooperation, we talk about coming together of the various parts, we talk about synergy, we talk about systems of thinking and systems approach in management. How the human body has been designed by the divine being or by nature as such an extraordinarily coordinating, self-regulating and self-sustaining mechanism. The body temperature will be always maintained at a particular level, whether it is cold outside or hot outside. The body has an extraordinary immune system. We try to spoil the body. I fill my stomach with all kinds of junk food and fast food and all kinds of things which I should not eat. But the body patiently takes all that and rejects what is not necessary, takes in what is necessary, makes me ill for a few days so that I don't eat much. And again, when I begin to take my fast food and the junk food, the body does not cry, why did you do it again? I cleared your stomach. Remember, we talk about God and divinity. I tell my students, the infinite God, the divine being has become your scavenger every day, enters your bowels and cleans them so that you can fill it with junk food the next day. He doesn't ask you, my child, why did you do that? I cleaned your bowels yesterday. That is extraordinary. There's a small book by the Reader's Digest, The Human Body. We read it long ago. It's an extraordinary book giving the basics of what the human body is about. There's a statement about the NDA. This book was written about long ago, DNA. This book was written long ago. The DNA was just being discovered. This book says, every DNA cell has a memory which time does not dim. How Vedanta and how spirituality begins. Has a memory which time does not dim. Every DNA has 100,000 coded messages. I'm just quoting from that book on biology, physiology. Every DNA cell is 100,000 coded messages. If all the messages are decoded, and if a typist sits down and types out the whole thing, it will occupy 1,000 volume encyclopedia. That is the glory of just one DNA. And we have billions and trillions of such DNA inside the body, and sitting in this multiple cell system and crying, I am small, I am weak, this man is my enemy, that man, I hate him. Are we not ashamed? Even a simple book on biology will tell you how glorious we are. So we should remember the glory that we are, not even in terms of spirit or intellect, but just the human body. The human body is the greatest gift that nature has given us, and this precious gift has to be carefully nurtured, very carefully kept up, and used for the welfare of humanity. Why we need good health is because we should be able to serve humankind better if we are healthy. If I am ill, I will be taking service from others rather than give it. I should be healthy. Niroga Shariraya, there's a Sankalpa Vakya, Niroga Shariraya Yatishye. I will always try for a disease-free body. Why? Because I will be able to serve humanity better with a powerful body. As was just mentioned, Swami Vivekananda once said in his Madras lecture, you will be nearer to heaven by playing football rather than reading the Bhagavad Gita. These are bold words, and I need to tell you this. You will understand the teachings of Bhagavan Krishna better with your biceps a little stronger. You know the story of Arjuna, who broke down in the war, collapsed. Arjuna suddenly collapsing there. You know, Arjuna was not an ordinary warrior. You read the Mahabharata, you will see. Such an extraordinary great warrior. He was the Senapati. He was leading the army. Suddenly he goes there and collapses out of weakness. What will he normally do? Sidanti mamagatrani tvachaiva paridakhyade gandivam samsade hastat rizashakno vyavasthatam brahmativa jamemana. My head is reeling. My whole skin is burning. That means very high blood pressure symptoms. What will you normally do? You call a doctor, you sympathize with the person who is ill. What did Sri Krishna do? Sri Krishna said, Prahasanniva Bharata, that is the statement in the Gita. He was just smiling derisively, sarcastically, and then took a whip and whipped it. Klaipyam masmagavapparthana itatva yuvapadyate kshudram hridayadaurbalyam daktva uttishta parantapa. You are a parantapa, you are a scorcher of your foes. You remember your glory? Klaipyam, you are behaving as if you are like a woman, as if you are behaving like a Napumsaka. Klaipyam masmagavappartha. Give up this mean faint-heartedness and get up. This does not befit you. Hridaya Daurbalya, the Durbalata, the weakness of the mind and the body and the spirit, you give up immediately and get up. Remember your glory. So this was the tonic which he gave him, because he knew that it was only because of physical and mental weakness Arjuna was collapsing. The message of the Gita is eternally reverberating in our ears only because the Gita message is the message of strength. So somehow we have forgotten this message and we have lapsed into kind of a morbid weakness. And sports always requires teamwork and coordinative effort. This is one very important thing. We have excelled in India in whatever sports we have excelled. You can immediately see in all one-man show or one-woman show. The women are on the top. It's all a single-person show. We are on the top in chess, single-man show. In archery, single-man show. In boxing, it is single man. And in all the athletics, wherever there are two people, we always fail because both of them we fight with each other, which happened in tennis. So Swami Vivekananda therefore said, jealousy and suspicion are the banes of a slavish race. We should overcome this bane of jealousy and suspicion, try to cooperate with each other and play coordinatedly. In one letter he wrote, 3 things are necessary for an individual or for a nation to achieve greatness. 1, conviction in the powers of goodness. 2, absence of jealousy and suspicion. 3, helping those who are trying to be good and trying to do good. Conviction in the powers of goodness is an extraordinarily important statement. Because why is it that our country is such a bad state? Why is it the entire world is such a bad state? Not because of the rise of wickedness. We make the mistaken notion the number of wicked people is increasing. No, it has always been there. Wicked, good, everybody has been there. Look at the Mahabharata age. Did not wicked people exist at that time? Yes, they did. Good people, wicked people, a mixture of both will always exist and continue to exist. That's a part of the whole game. What is the problem? Good people do not have so much conviction of the power of goodness as much as wicked people have about the power of wickedness. A wicked person believes in wickedness, believes in being wicked, and is convinced about it, and is willing to lay down his even life for that. Look at the suicide bombers we are talking about now. It never existed even a couple of decades ago. A person who is willing to give up his own life for the sake of something he is convinced about. Whatever be the conviction, you may criticize it, you may not like it, but he is convinced about something wrongly, wickedly, and that conviction carries him to a position in which he is able and willing gladly to give up his own body in a suicide attempt. How many good people, how many of us will do that? I believe in this and therefore I give up my life for it. Good people usually are not only good, but goody-goody. There's a statement, there's a phrase in English, goody-goody people. Goody-goody people are people who are namby-pamby, who are whining and crawling and weeping all the time, always complaining about everything else. They will never take the responsibility and they will say, I am responsible for my mistakes. I made mistakes, I am convinced about it, I will overcome them and I will not do it again. We will not say that. No, somebody is responsible. The whole country is now suffering from blame game. I blame you, you blame him, everybody blames everybody else. Where does anything end? This is called passing the buck. There is a story about Truman, who was a famous president of the United States. He had a placard in his table. The buck stops here. Because you can't pass it beyond the president. So constantly passing the buck and constantly trying to blame everybody doesn't mean anything. Swami Vivekananda therefore said, take up the responsibility on your own shoulders and know that you are the creator of your own destiny. Let us be bold. A wicked person is not only convinced about the power of wickedness, much more than a good person is convinced about the power of goodness. But he immediately can gang up. A good person not only is not fully convinced about the power of goodness, he cannot form a group, he cannot function in a group. Usually intellectuals, in a democracy you can see, everybody is a democratic person, everybody is an intellectual, he knows only to protest. Anything somebody says, no, I protest against. You say something constructive. So it's very easy to criticize, very easy to protest. But what is the constructive suggestion that they are giving us? A group of intellectuals, a group of good people, very rarely can function in harmony. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda again said, what is necessary is to follow, to obey. In India, nobody wants to obey, everybody wants to command. If everybody commands, who obeys? The power to be able to obey is equally important as the power to be able to command. And therefore he said, good people should not only be good, but have tremendous conviction in the power of goodness. A good person with a conviction in the power of goodness and coming together. Satata, Sahos, Sangathan. These three, Sangathan, organization, organized power of goodness of people who are powerful and convinced about goodness. So all these qualities come very easily through sports. That is the thesis. The thesis is sports is something which naturally integrates all this. Now sports science, as you know, is emerging as an independent discipline. In our country it is coming very slowly. There are just a couple of institutions. In Punjab, Patiala, you know the famous institute. Apart from that, there are a couple of institutes. Very few institutes are. The UGC, very interestingly, has taken a wonderful position to promote sports and sports infrastructure in various universities and colleges. It's a very welcome move. And now, there is a feeling that sports is something which is pursued by people who are academically not very strong. Even in the colleges and the universities, you will see. So in Bengal, where I come from, in Bengal, they say, Bhalo chelera jabe mothe, kharab chelera jabe mathe. Matha and matha. So mat is the monastery or the place of worship. So good children go to mat. But those who are not so good, they go to the mat. That means to play. So suppose your child is going to the playground. Oh, your child is going to the playground. But he's not doing well in studies. So look at the perception of society. A perception is going for pursue sports is somebody who is either a school dropout, could not do well, and as an escape route he is going to sports. This has to stop. We have to revive the glory of sports by saying that a person who is good in academics is always good in sports, is also good in cultural things, is also good in everything else. So sports as a discipline, sports as science as a discipline is developing, as you know, is a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach. Large number of sciences involved, particularly biological sciences and engineering areas. some concrete suggestions which I just thought about. It is high time that India accepted sports as an academic discipline and integrated it in academic pursuit in schools, colleges and universities. There is necessity for mainstreaming of sports into colleges and universities and schools. This integration would allow a shift in academic paradigm on the one hand and change the social perception in regard to sports. It would also support social integration of sports persons in the mainstream. So a couple of concrete suggestions I have noted down. One, compulsory sports and yoga participation of every child from primary standard, giving it as much importance as any other subject of academic study. This will also help us identify sports talent much more easily than we are doing now. From childhood, the sports talent is identified. Now, at the secondary level, children may be divided into two groups. One group I call conventional academic group. Those who are constantly at studies and studies and studies. All study and no play makes, who is that? John or something? Huh? Jack. John and Jack are the two people they know. Jill is also there. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. I always wondered, water is below. Why did they go to the hill to fetch water? Some rhyme is there meaningless. We always memorize that. So, dull boy, conventional academic group, let them do their academics. The second is sports academic group. I'm identifying a sports academic group who are good in academics, at the same time interested in sports. These two groups could be taught and trained differently, and for conventional academic groups, they may pursue sports at the recreational level, keeping good health and developing their physique. But the sports group, they will pursue sports discipline with vigor and seriousness, but their academics may take a back seat. For example, they may have to participate in many sports events, spend a lot of time. Their academics may take a back seat in spite of themselves. They may be good in academics, but because they are forced to spend more time in sports, they may not be able to compete with others. So in that case, they may learn their academics at a slower pace than others, and suitable flexibility in the academics could be arranged. Another challenging area, which we are not addressing so much, and we should urgently address this, is the disability sector. India was happy because we got all the medals from the Paralympics and the Special Olympics. So people who are supposed to be disabled, we call them disabled. Once upon a time this word was handicapped was used. Some people thought handicapped is not a good word, we will call them disabled people. Said, no, disabled is not a good word, we call them differently able. Said, no, differently able is not a good word. Now they say challenged people. Physically they say mentally challenged and visually challenged. Somebody said, I'm very fat, but horizontally challenged. Somebody is very short, you're vertically challenged. Don't say you're short and fat, it looks bad. To call a fat person like me, oh, you're so fat, why did you grow so fat? I feel bad. Oh, Swami, why are you horizontally challenged? These are new words which are coming up. Even the thinking pattern of human beings are changing, how inclusive we are becoming, so that the other person doesn't feel hurt. See, nobody should be hurt in society. Society should accommodate, include all kinds of people, including subhuman beings, so that nobody in society is particularly hurt because of what God has given. I am born like this. Somebody is born a mentally retarded child. What for? We can invoke karma. That's the bad thing about Indian Hindu tradition. So because of his karma in the previous life, nobody knows. And therefore he has to suffer in this life. I'm not responsible. Society is responsible. Swami Vivekananda once thundered. If it is his karma that he is suffering because of this, it is my karma to be able to help him. My karma is in this life is to help him. So he said another challenging important area would be academic as well as sports skill development for the disabled and the challenged persons. This is perhaps the most challenging part of the integration. India perhaps will be hosting an Olympic event maybe 10 years since, 15 years since, we do not know, 2024, 2028. And it's extremely necessary that we should develop this. So I am suggesting, this is just a proposal, the universities and colleges, particularly the university, can think of having a center of excellence in sports science. Funding will come from the government or from the non-governmental sector. See, money will come when there's a will. Swami Vivekananda said, man makes money, money does not make man. Where are the men who are required? What kind of man? A person who has a heart to feel, brains to conceive, and hands to work. You have intense feeling for humanity. Intense feeling some good should be done to people. That feeling alone is not enough. Instead of wasting your time in frothy feeling and soppy sentimentalism, have you thought about a practical solution which can work? Clearly thought out plan of action. Even that is not enough. In trying to implement this plan of action, if 100,000 obstacles come your way, do you have the courage to face them? His famous words were, if the entire world stands before you with sword in hand, ready to crush you out, will you still dare to do what you are convinced about, what you think is right? If you have this courage, these three things, the heart to feel, bhakti, brains to conceive, jnana, and hands to work, karma. By integration of jnana, bhakti, and karma, with the intensity of yoga, a person can achieve collectively and individually extraordinary things. So this Center of Excellence in Sports could have several research areas. Some of them we have identified. In the clinical field, sports medicine, orthopedics, psychiatry, etc. And exercise physiology and biochemistry. These are well known to people who are in the sports area. Psychology, biometrics and human movement, training methods in sports analysis, and match analysis. So I'm a stopgap arrangement until the minister comes, I have to go on. Sometimes people say, Swami, this time you stop. No, they say, please carry on, please carry on. Life is so funny, isn't it? But if you take it too seriously, then you're in trouble. But if you take less seriously, also you're in trouble. So the formula is, locally take it too seriously, but globally relax. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said. Think globally, act locally. When you go to the playground to play cricket or football, when you lose the match, when you are an extraordinarily great batsman, like Sachin Tendulkar, for example, he suddenly gets out in the first over. It looks bad to him and others. But no point in getting depressed. You laugh it away and come back. But when you're in the game, play it with dead seriousness.